The salvage vessel Wandering Claw drifted in the debris field like a wounded animal, its hull breached in 3 places, life support flickering on emergency power. Lieutenant Mara Chun floated through the cramped corridors, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor as she made her way to the cargo hold where the survivors huddled together. She wasn't supposed to be here. Hell, she wasn't even supposed to be in this sector. But when the distress beacon had pierced through the static, when she'd heard the terrified chittering of the Valkyrie cubs over the comm, something in her chest had tightened. The Terran Explorer had been 3 days from its scheduled rendezvous, but Mara had punched in the new coordinates without hesitation. Now, as she surveyed the 8 Valkyrie younglings pressed against the far wall of the hold, their crystalline eyes wide with fear, their fur matted with coolant fluid and dust, she wondered if she'd made the right call. They were alone, utterly alone. The adult crew had been caught in the initial explosion, their bodies claimed by the void. These cubs, none older than what humans would call adolescents, had survived by pure chance, sealed in the cargo hold by emergency protocols. "It's okay," Mara said softly, her translator rendering her words into the musical clicks and whistles of Valkyrie. "I'm here to help." The smallest one, barely 3 feet tall with patches of silver fur, took a tentative step forward. His name was Rek, according to the crew manifest she'd pulled from the dying computers. He tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that reminded Mara of the way cats back on Earth sized up their surroundings. "The adults?" Rek asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mara's jaw tightened. She knelt down, bringing herself to eye level with the cub. "I'm sorry. The hull breach was catastrophic." "They didn't suffer." A keening wail rose from the group, a sound of pure grief that transcended species. Mara felt it in her bones, remembered the day she'd learned about her own parents. Lost to a reactor failure on Mars, she gave them time, these children who just lost everything. Hours passed. Mara worked methodically, sealing the hull breaches with emergency patches, rerouting power, restoring life support to sustainable levels. The cubs watched her, silent now, their grief settling into a heavy blanket of shock. She offered them ration packs from her own supplies, not ideal for Valkyrie physiology, but better than starving. She showed them how to activate the thermal blankets, how to use the emergency oxygen masks if needed. Rex stayed close, translating for the younger ones who didn't have translators yet, asking questions about what she was doing, why she was doing it. There was a sharpness to him, an intelligence that had probably saved his life and the lives of the others when everything went wrong. On the second day, the Valkyrie Defense Fleet arrived. 3 massive warships materialized from fold space, their weapons arrays glowing with barely contained energy. The lead vessel hailed the Wandering Claw immediately, and Mara felt her stomach drop. The Valkyrie were not known for their trust of other species, especially not when their young were involved. "This is Commander Zarik of the Crimson Fang," the voice crackled through the comm. "We have tracked our lost vessel to these coordinates. Identify yourself immediately," Mara keyed the transmitter. "This is Lieutenant Mara Chun of the Terran Explorer Corps. I responded to a distress beacon 48 hours ago. The adult crew is deceased. 8 cubs survived. I've been keeping them safe." Silence, long enough that Mara wondered if she'd just signed her own death warrant. The Valkyrie had gone to war with 3 species in the last century over perceived threats to their young. A human, alone with their children on a crippled ship, it could look like kidnapping, it could look like a hostage situation. "We are boarding," Zarik said finally. "Do not resist." The boarding party came through the airlock like a Storm 6 Valkyrie warriors in full combat armor, weapons drawn, moving with lethal precision. They swept through the ship, clearing each section until they reached the cargo hold where Mara stood with the cubs. The lead officer, a scarred veteran with gray streaking through his golden fur, raised his rifle toward Mara. His eyes were chips of ice, assessing, judging. "Who leads here?" he demanded, his voice harsh with barely controlled rage. Mara opened her mouth to respond, to explain, to somehow make them understand she'd only wanted to help. But before she could speak, Rex stepped forward. The small cub moved between Mara and the rifle, his body language protective despite his size. One small paw lifted, pointing directly at Mara. "She does," Rex said clearly. She kept us alive. She fixed the ship. She gave us her food. She cried with us when we learned the adults were gone. One by one, the other cubs moved forward, forming a line between Mara and the warriors. 7 small bodies, fragile and vulnerable, placing themselves in harm's way to protect the human who had protected them. The officer's eyes widened. He looked from the cubs to Mara and back again, his weapon slowly lowering. In Valkyrie culture, Mara knew the young did not offer protection lightly. It was a gesture reserved for pack leaders, for those who had proven themselves worthy of absolute trust. She taught us how to survive, another cub spoke up, her voice trembling but determined. She never left us. Even when the reactor started failing and she could have run to her own ship, she stayed. The officer's rifle dropped completely. He touched his chest with his fist of Valkyrie gesture of respect and bowed his head toward Mara. "Forgive us, Lieutenant Chun," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We did not understand. The cubs have spoken." "You are Pack." Mara felt something break loose in her chest, a tension she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. She looked at Rek, at his small face set with determination, and smiled. "Just doing what anyone would do," she said. "No," Commander Zarek's voice came through the cum, gentle now. "What a human would do. We have much to learn from your kind." As the Valkyrie began the careful process of evacuating the cubs, Rek paused beside Mara. He reached up with one small paw and touched her hand. "Thank you, Leader Mara," he said. "I will remember." Mara knelt and pulled the cub into a gentle hug. "So will I, Rek, so will I." Later, as she watched the Valkyrie ships fold away into the darkness, Mara thought about leadership, about trust, about the strange ways the universe brought beings together. She hadn't set out to prove anything about humanity that day. She'd just done what felt right. But maybe, she thought, that was the whole point.